Hey guys, thanks again for watching Lost Memories. We're diving into another Niagara Falls video today, and we'll be going back to the 1950s and 60s era. Personally, two of my favorite decades from the 20th century. I talk about it as if I personally lived through this time period, so let's just make it clear. I did not, but I have been in some fancy 50s diners, so I guess that's good enough. Driving into Niagara and passing through that rushing water still blows my mind every time. And I live in the area. I never get tired of it. I thought we'd start off right on the busiest street in Niagara, and that would be Clifton Hill. You cannot come to Niagara Falls without walking up and down Clifton Hill a few times to check out the attraction. You got the Niagara Skywheel, the Niagara Speedway, mini putting, wax museums, arcades, rides, and the list goes on. As a teenager, my friends and I would go through the haunted houses. Try to get me in there now. Good luck. After spending an hour horsing around and getting my favorite Clifton Hill soft serve ice cream, we decided to take a walk down to the Oaks Garden Theater, which is at the foot of the hill. This spectacular garden is the entranceway to Queen Victoria Park and showcases the falls very well with its amazing views of the American and Horseshoe Falls. It is also the former location of the original Clifton Hotel, the first luxury hotel in the area. Travelers in the early 1820s were the first to experience Niagara Falls as a tourist district, and chances are they probably would have stayed at the Clifton Hotel. As a matter of fact, English writer Charles Dickens, yes, the author of A Christmas Carol, stayed there for 10 days in 1842. Unfortunately, the hotel burnt down years later but was soon replaced by a new Clifton Hotel in the same location in 1906. This hotel was also destroyed by a fire on Christmas Eve in 1932. So this is where the original Clifton Hotel would have been, right here. It's hard to know exactly where the original footprint of the building would have been, but looking at photos, I think I'd probably be inside the building right now. It doesn't look too far from the edge of the gorge there. This is actually a perfect time to come. There's literally no one here.
That's awesome. Fall colors.
I don't think I've ever been here.
No? Never been inside the rainforest?
No, I've been in the Rainforest Cafe though. I don't think I've ever been here while it's this dead.
It's dead? We're in the middle of a pandemic, bro.
I know. Unreal.
It's cool. Only in the movies. Look at the Joker.
Yep, this is pretty much where it all started. As time went by, more and more hotels and attractions were built, and by the 1960s, Clifton Hill started looking like a different place. Another structure developers thought they could capitalize on, especially in Niagara, was observation towers. One of those towers being the Conica Minolta Tower. Completed in 1962 and costing around $1.2 million at the time to make, the tower stood 200 meters above the base of the Horseshoe Falls. The building was named Seagram's Tower at the time, and it was funded by the Seagram's Liqueur Company, a Canadian distillery famous for its production of Crown Royal whiskey. There's one particular story about the Seagram's Tower that fascinates me, and it involves a man by the name of Walt Disney. The year is 1963. Walt Disney had been exploring a new location for a second theme park in the East after having plenty of success with Disneyland in Anaheim, California.
Walt Disney's Disneyland.
When you wish
After considering St. Louis, Missouri and some other locations, Walt Disney had set his eyes on Niagara Falls, Canada as a possible location for his new Disney World. As the story goes, Walt and his wife Lillian, accompanied by his brother Roy and wife Edna, were invited by the Seagram's Liqueur Company in August of 1963 to tour Niagara, and they had actually spent the night at the Sheraton Brock Hotel, today known as the Crowne Plaza. Walt Disney at this time was a very well-known individual from his many appearances on his Disney TV program, so it didn't take long for tourists to swarm him and his entourage once spotted walking around the area. Walt Disney himself viewed the majestic Niagara Falls right here from the Seagram's observation tower and was captivated by its beauty. He had formed an idea to partner with the Seagrams Corporation and construct a ride on the famous tower. Walt had envisioned a rocket to the moon ride, similar to the one constructed in Tomorrowland for the Niagara Falls tourists. However, all these ideas were short-lived. Disney was never able to agree on a licensing agreement with the Seagrams Corporation, and the rocket to the moon partnership went south, literally. And for Disney World being built here, I think we all know how that played out. Weather would be the deciding factor for Walt. The brutal Canadian winters ultimately would hinder his plans of having a year-round location theme park. Now, unfortunately, Walt Disney would die 3 years later and would never get to see his vision become a reality. His brother Roy Disney would carry on Walt's legacy, and the new Disney World theme park would open in Orlando, Florida of 1971. But it's pretty cool to think that for a fleeting moment in time, Ontario was a possible location for the most successful theme park in the history of the world. Before this worldwide pandemic, 30 million were visiting Niagara Falls every year, and now, who knows what those numbers are? With the neighboring US border closed, the tourism industry must be hurting exponentially. I really want to know what the definitive moment was when Niagara Falls tourism numbers started to climb to the point where 30 million people were coming here every year, but I would like to think it all began somewhere in the middle of the 20th century.
Bam, bam, bam!
Mr. Gallagher!
As a matter of fact, in the 1950s, 20th Century Fox would invest $1.7 million into a motion picture set around Niagara Falls. The film was Niagara. It was directed by Henry Hathaway and produced by Charles Brackett. The story would involve two couples visiting Niagara and murder. This Hitchcock-esque thriller did very well and was actually 20th Century Fox's biggest box office hit of 1953. The film Niagara also starred one of the biggest names going of that era, Marilyn Monroe. I would love to make a comparison of someone today who can match the status of Marilyn Monroe, but I just can't find someone. She was in a class of her own. Whether it was modeling, singing, or acting in a box office hit, she became the most popular sex symbol of the 1950s and early 60s, and was emblematic of the era's changing attitude towards sexuality. She starred in movies like Young as You Feel, Monkey Business, Clash by Night, Don't Bother to Knock. For God's sake, she posed on the cover of the first ever issue of Playboy, with nude images used as the centerfold. She was briefly married to Joe DiMaggio, the goddamn baseball legend himself, the Yankee Clipper. She even founded her own production company in 1954. Monroe was on top of the world, or so it seemed. Struggling with addiction, depression, and anxiety, Marilyn's struggles would eventually catch up with her. And on August 4th, 1962, Marilyn Monroe would be found dead in her Los Angeles home, in what would be a probable suicide. She was only 36. So anyways, back to the movie Niagara. So here we have this gorgeous actress, who at the time happens to be the most well-known and influential woman walking the face of the earth. And she's shooting a film noir / thriller in Niagara Falls called Niagara, and it's about two couples visiting Niagara Falls. And this is where I go back to my question. What was the definitive moment where Niagara Falls became a hotspot for tourists? And I seriously think it would be a strong argument to say Marilyn Monroe had nothing to do with it. This woman fortuitously put Niagara Falls on the map, period. This is kind of the part of the vlog where we try to relocate Marilyn Monroe's footsteps. Keep in mind this movie was made almost 70 years ago, so the landscape of the city has changed quite a bit. Not so much the falls, obviously, but the buildings and streets have changed a lot since that time. Falling behind. Okay, let's do the most obvious. We know Marilyn Monroe was in town for 2 weeks, June 5th to June 18th of 1952, and we know she stayed right there at the Crowne Plaza Hotel. And I believe she stayed in room 801. Which is where we're gonna go right now if we can get in. I got my mask. So there's the Crowne Plaza there. We're gonna see if we can get into room 801, which is the room Marilyn Monroe stayed when she was here for those 2 weeks.
We're gonna get in.
Oh, we're getting in. We got masks.
Plaza.
Let's see, mask required.
Going to 801, gonna go visit Marilyn Monroe's
801.
I might stay there tonight.
I wonder if there's a picture of her in there.
Oh, for sure.
No. Is it here?
It's right here.
No. It's down here.
Look, missed it.
Okay.
Right here.
Oh yeah.
You gotta take footage of that.
I
She
know.
didn't come out of the elevator. This is the hallway where the girl stayed at.
That's cool. Last one.
I feel so Jersey.
Where's your Hawaiian shirt?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Sorry. I'm putting in the picture.
There's room 801. She would have stayed right here. So cool. So I recently rewatched the movie to see if I can spot any familiar places that still may exist today. And let's just start with the obvious. The rainbow cabins where the two couples stayed. So in the film, married couple George and Rose Loomis, played by Joseph Cotton and Marilyn Monroe, are vacationing in Niagara Falls. George, a Korean War veteran, is slowly unraveling. He thinks he's going insane purely from his time in the war. What he doesn't know is that Rose, with her lover Patrick, is trying to drive him crazy, ultimately in an attempt to murder him. Meanwhile, Polly Cutler, played by Jean Peters, is in Niagara as well with her husband Ray. On their honeymoon, become the unfortunate bystanders in what would conspire between the Loomises.
Smell like a dime store. I know what that means.
Sure, I'm meeting somebody. Just anybody handy as long as he's a man.
Now the unfortunate part of the cabins in this film is that they never existed. See, the rainbow cabins were specifically designed and built for the movie, and they were torn down shortly after. This hut here is actually what's remaining from the rainbow cabins in the movie. I think it's been redone maybe for tourists, but it's really cool. It's really cool how it still exists today. So there's a scene where George Loomis is wandering Niagara Parkway. And in this photo, you can see Clifton Gate Memorial Arch, which would have been located right here on this grassy median. Unfortunately, it's been torn down. I believe it was torn down in March of 1968, but that's where it would have been, right there. So the police station in the movie was torn down. That was actually Old City Hall, so we're not going to be able to see that. That was torn down. But the morgue from the movie exists. And it's up here on the corner of Park and Zimmerman. And that's where we're heading now. So in the movie, Marilyn Monroe's taxi's pulling up right here.
The same direction or going this way?
Actually, this direction. So she stops right here at this curb. And she gets out and she walks into this morgue here. Yeah, she would have walked up these steps right here. These doors actually look original, eh? You think?
It's got a paint job?
Maybe.
We need to redo this building for sure.
I'm not gonna lie, I can still smell the perfume right here. It's only been 7 years.
Security guard house?
Some security guard from the movie set. He's a corpse.
Visited by 3 girls. This looks like Scrooge's house.
But the most notable thing from the movie Niagara that still exists today would have to be the Carillion Tower near the Rainbow Bridge. If you do ever decide to watch the film, I assure you, you'll always remember this structure because it plays a pivotal role in the film, including its climax. I really don't want to spoil the film for you guys, so what the hell. This movie is about 70 years old, and I know you're probably never going to get to it, so Monroe's character gets whacked in this building, okay? There, I said it. Done. Thanks again for watching, guys. This episode really didn't cover one specific topic, but a cluster of stories that tie into Niagara Falls and the golden era, that is the 1950s and 1960s. Many things have changed since that time, but it's always really interesting to look back and get lost in history's stories that one day might totally be forgotten. Memories fade away and time does not wait. These are just moments in time. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Lost Memories Films and hit that notification button. Much love.